There are a countless number of Dragon Ball fans out there, but how many of them actually know what Ki is in the world of Dragon Ball? Hey, Under here, and today I want to get into a more technical discussion about one of the very basic foundations of Dragon Ball, namely Ki, what it is, what it does, and how you train it. Honestly, it's probably way more in-depth than a lot of you might think. It's rarely mentioned in detail in the show, but once you learn more about it, certain things start to make much more sense. In Dragon Ball, we see characters like Goku and Krillin, who may not seem to be the most overbearing of fighters, especially as children, but they pack one heck of a punch. You could also bunch Roshi and Yamcha into this group, as neither of these characters seem physically dominating at first glance. We all know, that Ki is what makes a rather unassuming vessel into a powerhouse. But what is Ki exactly? Why do certain characters seem to be able to surpass those they honestly shouldn't just by virtue of training? And why do some characters seem to become much stronger through simple meditation? Well, first off, there are three components to Ki: Genki, Yuki, and Shoki. These three elements follow a very familiar tradition in not only storytelling, but in our physical beings, nature, and religion. Genki, or energy, is the embodiment of physical Ki. It's what makes characters capable of punching through boulders or sending someone 10 times their size, flying through the air with a single kick. It's also the form that many of us are most familiar with, as it's most often seen on display, whether it's being used to fly, shoot beams, or punch really, really hard. This element of Ki is present in every living thing. Simply by existing, you are slowly training this element of Ki. Oh, and if the name sounds familiar for some reason, it's because the Genki Dama, the proper name for Spirit Bomb, is likely named after this form of Ki. Next is Yuki. Yuki is probably the most difficult to explain form of Ki. It's the aspect of human spirit or courage. It's far and away the least visited element of Ki in the series, but it is likely, what's attributed to moments where characters seemingly break their own limits to save the day. For instance, Kid Goku blasting a hole through Piccolo Daimao despite being completely crippled and otherwise completely out of that fight. Finally, we have Shoki, which draws its strength from mental training. This is a primary reason why characters like Ten Shinhan and Junior, later to be referred to as Piccolo, seemed so far beyond the majority of the cast when they were first introduced. These are characters that focus on mental training. In fact, it is very likely that the entire Crane School philosophy is built around training Shoki. Chiaotzu, Ten Shinhan, and Crane Hermit are both very well versed in mental tricks. Chiaotzu so much so that he can actually control people that are more powerful than himself with his mind. All three of these characters seem incredibly proficient in telepathy as well. Now, as I stated before, we see these three elements in a lot of things. Harry Potter had the Horcruxes that embodied intelligence, courage, and power. The Triforce in Legend of Zelda reflects wisdom, power, and courage. Naruto's jutsus fall into this too, with taijutsu, ninjutsu, and genjutsu. All focus on these elements of mind, body, and soul. You look at Christianity, again, God is described in three parts: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which represents mind, body, soul. And as you can see, this is a very common theme, and it's been proven to draw people in. It's almost like there's an inherent part of our psyche, and naturally Dragon Ball it also incorporates this concept, though it's in a very subtle fashion. At one point in the Dragon Ball story, it was the characters who trained all three aspects that became the top dogs. While it's not often mentioned, it's something you can tell just by a character's training and how they respond to certain situations. Let's start with, you guessed it, my favorite character, Ten Shinhan. He's honestly the poster boy of Ki control, at least in Dragon Ball, and this is one of the reasons why I gravitated towards him as a character when I was young. In Dragon Ball, we get an image of Ten Shinhan levitating in the air, meditating with wispy, almost otherworldly aura licking around his body, like a flame almost. It was incredibly intimidating and something completely foreign to the series at this point. This also just happened to be the first character who managed to beat the heroes by various aspects of his own power. Ten Shinhan against Yamcha not only outpowered him physically, but used Ki in his body to completely absorb Yamcha's most powerful physical attacks. He later deflects Yamcha's Kamehameha with nothing more than his own Ki. The man was literally shrugging off the most powerful attacks we had seen in the series to this point. He then continues to defeat Roshi and narrowly defeating Goku. Ten Shinhan is the first example of a completely balanced fighter. His Genki was incredibly well developed, as he could deliver crippling attacks and even did a full power Kamehameha on his very first attempt. His Shoki is shown being developed through intensive meditation, and his Yuki is shown every time the character shows the courage of facing death head on, which is basically what he does in every fight, whether it's the Ki Koho, where he's risking his life just by using it, killing himself with the Mafuba, trying to stop Piccolo Daimyo. I mean, Ten Shinhan is kind of the poster boy for self-sacrifice in the series. It wouldn't be until Goku mastered all three of these that he truly surpassed Ten Shinhan. Goku had always been a prodigy at Genki, super strong, capable of energy blasts at a very early stage in his training. His Yuki was shown every time he stood up to those stronger than him, and risked his life to help others. But it wasn't until his training with Popo and Kami that he developed his mind. Let's be honest here, Goku's a bit of a moron for the better part of Dragon Ball. He didn't think things through, he did have some clever ideas, but he was mostly really naive, and his attention span was severely lacking. His training on the lookout allowed him to track Ki, sense his opponents, and constantly push himself beyond his current strength. These three aspects of Ki allows for people to train in more unconventional ways. I mean, you ever wonder how Piccolo can keep up with the majority of cast just by napping in the desert? You know, apart from him absorbing other Namekians. How Ten Shinhan can meditate under a waterfall and become stronger, though, honestly, in Super, we haven't seen him become stronger whatsoever, and it's kind of annoying. How about how Gohan and Krillin can mentally train with one another and actually get results from it? And the more you look at Ki from this light, the more you seem to understand how the characters of Dragon Ball function. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This wasn't much of a theory as it was me passing on knowledge that was seemingly lost to time, because, I mean, I don't really hear people talking about this much, and at one point this was a topic of conversation between me and my friends. So, yeah, this information that was generally well known during the time of Dragon Ball, you know, when it was being aired in Japan, but disappeared when Z became popular in the West. It's kind of how I feel it happened. In some ways, it does feel odd posing information in a subjective format, not really used to telling the viewers this is 100% the way things are, but that's sort of what this video is, so hopefully I'll get more comfortable doing it with time. It's just, these are usually like discussion videos where nothing is 100% objective, and this is like my first video where I'm like, yeah, this is actually how it is. Most people don't seem to know this. But yeah, that does it for this video. If you have any comments or questions, just let me know in the comment section below, and I'll do what I can to get back to you ASAP. ASAP? ASAP? ASAP. I can't talk. Oh boy. I'm Under, and I'll catch you all later.